Good morning everyone, welcome to Indycar on another miserable day here in Partick. The rain is coming down by the bucketful, there's black ice everywhere and it's a pretty dismal scene here in Partick. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's almost indicative of the mood in the British nationalist camp at the moment. They are pretty cold and wet themselves and miserable that the movement that we have is going from strength to strength. Yesterday's post on the events at Westminster over the previous day, where we discovered that there is now no actual defence now against the Tories disbanding the entire Parliament, that got over 57,000 views yesterday. And as we got those 57,000 views, scores of what we used to call unionists, but we now call British nationalist trolls, came onto the threads to try and mock the idea of the Parliament and to tell us that it needed to be shut down. Now, the fact that there have been so many trolls on this thread leads me to believe that we touched a gigantic nerve yesterday with that broadcast, that they're really terrified now, and the paid trolls that GCHQ are paying to produce all of these fake accounts with no history and no friends, you can tell them straight away, because as soon as they come online you can see they have no history and no friends, and one or two pictures that could be of anybody's family at all, almost anywhere on the planet. Anyway, as soon as they appear and as soon as you hear the language and the arrogance and tone, you know immediately that this is being manufactured to try and sow dissent and make you feel despondent in some way. Well, it doesn't make me feel despondent, it just makes me feel that I've done my job yesterday and I've got the news out effectively, and that people are starting to wake up now, and hopefully there will be some announcements from our own leadership very shortly on what the response to this new situation will be. But as I say, the point is that we have woken up, and it seems to me that a corner was turned yesterday, that this single event, this voting down of an amendment to the repeal bill, which would have protected Scotland's laws and made sure that nothing could be changed without full parliamentary debate in the House of Commons. Without that, and the fact that that has now been defeated, means that we have no protection left for our Holyrood Parliament, and it now remains in a very vulnerable state. At any point the Tories can decide, almost immediately in fact, on Brexit, or even before Brexit, if they decide to enact the repeal bill straight away. At any point they can suspend, they can depower, they can change or amend or remove or close the Holyrood Parliament at a whim, and there will be no recourse in the House of Commons to prevent that from happening. Now, because we're in a vulnerable position, you might think that puts us on the back foot, but I disagree. This actually puts us on the front foot now. It is the clarion call. It's the trumpet that sounds to muster the troops once again, because we're now in a situation where Brexit has driven the entire narrative of the British state now. It's all being driven towards the cliff edge of Brexit. Regardless of whether we get a deal or not, we are going out of Europe with the British state unless we stop it. And while they're doing that, they will sweep aside Holyrood, they'll sweep aside the Welsh Assembly, and anybody else who gets in the way of Brexit will be tossed to the side. There will be no legal recourse because they will have suspended that. If they can't use the Henry VIII laws, which some are saying that they can't use them, but if they can't use the Henry VIII laws, it's not beyond the wit of this Parliament, or this government I should say, to manufacture some kind of emergency where they can suspend the normal laws of the country and introduce some kind of military law which allows them to do what they like. This has been done many times in the past by other governments. And those of you who know your history know that Winston Churchill sent tanks and machine guns to George Square in 1919 to ruthlessly put down a strike by shipyard workers who were voting for a 5-day working week, and all they wanted was better conditions. And yet the British government was so scared of some kind of communist rebellion in Glasgow that they actually sent the army into our city with tanks and machine guns to scare the living daylights out of the strikers and to put down what they saw as some kind of communist revolution here. So the British government has form in terms of manufacturing some kind of emergency, and I wouldn't put it past them to do that this time either. Anyway, the upshot is a lot of people are very worried about this, but we can't just be worried about it. We have to start doing something about it. In the National this morning, Paul Kavanagh, who writes under the name of the Wee Ginger Dog, was pointing out that the people who will drive this new independence movement forwards are the young people, those under the age of 25 mainly. And these are the supporters of independence whom we need to really organise. Every single youngster I have ever spoken to, and I mean anybody, I've only ever come across one person who swithered about this who was under 25, but almost every single other young person under 25 I have spoken to personally has said that they would back independence, and they will not back Brexit under any circumstances. One particular young person that I met recently says that if Brexit goes ahead, he's leaving the UK forever and he's going to travel Europe in a camper van rather than stay in his own home country. And I said to him, well, that's the wrong attitude. Let's stay and fight and let's stop it happening. So he agrees with me. He's going to stay and fight, but if we lose, he will leave. And I don't blame him if we are let down again by, shall we say, the older British nationalists among us. Then I think it will be the end for the Scottish independence movement. So we can't let that happen. It's very important now that we engage with young people. Anybody over the age of 16 in your family, talk to them about it now, and make sure that when we're fighting online that we organise groups of young people online as well. The Youth for Independence are going to be the major force in this, because they are coming into the voting electorate at a higher rate than those who are leaving it through death. So in other words, the young are going to outnumber the old pretty soon. And the good thing about that is they have definitely got the energy to fight this, and they know what the stakes are as well. So it's our duty to help them to understand the situation and to point out the dangers that lie in Brexit. I think they all know the dangers of Brexit, but what they don't really understand yet is what the advantages of independence will be. And that's up to us to really educate them about that. So I hope in the next few days and weeks that my programming will switch towards a much more targeted younger market, if you like, a younger demographic. And I want to appeal to them, if they're even watching this today, to make sure and spread the programme around their own friends groups and start to talk about these subjects, because in the next few months they're going to be asked to vote again. And some of them will be asked to vote for the very first time in their lives on probably something that is the biggest single event in the history of their entire country. And in the history of their own lives, it's the biggest event that they will get a chance to influence. So that's the message for today. That the fact that the Yoon trolls are out, as they say, that we have all of these negative comments coming from, I would say it's somewhere in the region of about 20 to 30 trolls that are coming online every day to rubbish this site, tells me that I'm doing my job and that we are hitting the mark now, that we're hitting them where it hurts. And the British nationalists are now scared because they know Brexit is effectively driving people towards independence, and long may that continue. So let's hope the British government keeps charging towards Brexit at a high rate of knots, and it scares the living daylights out of people, because we all know that independence is a far better bet than Brexit. In fact, it's a far better bet than just the status quo just now. The oil money that we are told we don't have was revealed accidentally the other day when it was discovered there was a hole in the oil pipeline coming into Grangemouth from the Forties field. And the BBC and a number of other news reporters accidentally mentioned that there was 450,000 barrels of oil flowing through it per day. And I calculated that that transferred to about $9.3 billion worth of oil flowing into the country every single year. And yet not a single penny of taxation appears to be coming into the Scottish block grant. There is nothing coming from our oil. And yet we're told that there's no oil flowing and that it's all dried up and it's no use to us and it's a big burden. Well, if it's a big burden, Why is Ineos pumping 450,000 barrels of the stuff into their refineries every single day? And what is that money being used to support? Well, I'll tell you, for one thing, it's going to support the Brexit bill, because how else are they going to pay the 40 to 50 billion pounds bill that it's going to cost us to leave the EU? They're not going to find that on the magic money tree, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to be able to borrow it very easily, since our credit rating was devalued twice in the last few months. So I'm willing to bet you that our oil money is going to be squandered paying the Brexit bill that we didn't want anyway. We didn't want the Brexit. So another Tory stupidity, another Tory ideological daft idea like Thatcher had with wrecking our industries in the 80s. We're going to pay for it with our own oil money. We are going to pay for these Tory mistakes. That's what's going to cover the bill. And that's what young people need to realise, that oil money is actually there. It's just being siphoned away into Whitehall to pay the Brexit bill. We'll never see it again. We're all going to pay for Brexit, but Scotland is going to pay disproportionately more than any other place in the UK for this Tory ideologically driven stupidity of Brexit. We're all going to lose because of it. The only people that will gain from this are Tory millionaires, oil company executives and the politicians who are in their pockets, and I believe there are a large number of them in the Tory party. Anyway, I'm off now, but if you're under the age of 25, get in touch with me and we'll see if we can target some of these broadcasts at your friends, your college mates, your university pals, your school friends, and see if we can get a good big group of Youth for Indy going, because it's about time you guys really got yourselves organised. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Have a good day. I hope the weather improves, but let's keep fighting. We're hitting them where it hurts now, and it's time to put the pressure on, and it's time to get the young soldiers, the young foot soldiers involved in the battle now. Bye for now.